things up today. We're talking about aliens, and I'm here with my alien expert, Alexa Kahan. How's it
Hello,
going?
you guys. Oh, it's going really well. I just touched down in a UFO hotspot in Sedona. Actually, my skin's a little dry, probably from the heat. It's like summer here.
Oh yeah, and it's like super dry out there too.
Winter in Sedona. I'm lucky enough.
So I heard Sedona was like an energy vortex or something like that, right? Is it? It's like
I've
I don't know
heard
much about it. Yeah.
I've heard the same thing. I have heard that just like the human body has energy centers, reproductive organs, solar plexus, heart,
Hmm.
third eye, pineal gland, vocal cords, thyroid, throat chakra. The earth also has energy centers. I don't believe Sedona is a chakra, quite like Mount Shasta, I believe, is the crown chakra of Earth.
Hmm.
Sedona is an energy vortex. So it's a heightened energy. It's not technically a chakra, but it is a heightened energy, and I'm still figuring out kind of what that means to me. And I think everybody
Yeah.
feels that differently.
I was gonna ask what that means, because like, are there actually like alien sight or UFO UAP sightings that have been around that area?
Many, many,
Oh.
many. We're not too far even from Area 51. Vegas is maybe 8 or 9 hours away. I'm sorry, not Vegas. Area, yeah,
Was it
Area
Roswell,
51's
right?
maybe, oh, New Mexico. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Area 51's maybe like 4 hour drive. Like we're kind of in,
Okay.
but and then there's Utah, which has some energy centers as well. So I think what it means to me is the land. The land is just very different here because of the rock formations, and I think that that gives the energy of a difference, like where change alert, uniqueness alert.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that is maybe people can feel um, what they would normally feel, but a little bit enhanced. So if you're kind of like you normally wake up in a certain vibe, it could enhance the vibe that you already bring in.
Interesting. Interesting. So are there a lot of like artists and creative types over there? I don't know.
Yes, a lot of artists, visual art, sculpture art. The city is kind of known actually for having big metal sculptures of like mooses and
Hmm.
bears and animals because people really revere animals. There's a big indigenous community nearby and in Sedona, and so there's a lot of animal art, Coco Pele, native. Kind of ancient peoples of the area um,
Cool.
before Europeans came in. Um, and I think musicians. I'm sure there's musicians here, and I'm working on being a musician. And I think the vortex energy. I'm gonna do some experiments and see if it enhances my creative ability.
Cool. Right on. Well, I want to get into it a little bit. So these UAP sightings, whatever we want to call them, like what do you think they are? Do you think they're actually visitors from other worlds?
Yes, I do. I think there's many different friends and neighbors. Some are more humanoid, I believe, and some are truly um, possibly more alien. I think we have a relationship with multiple kinds of humanoid species in the galaxy because I believe that humans were created from off-world DNA. So I
Interesting.
think
Okay.
that's getting into a little bit of why are they even coming. So I kind of jumped ahead to why are
Yeah,
they even
yeah. And I was going to get into that too. So do you think that these beings have been here the whole time that we've been here? Kind of like watching us or guiding us or something like that?
I think the maybe not these specific. Yeah, I think they have been. I mean, obviously they have changed over time because it's not the same beings. They're not like 100,000 years old. But I think the beings are aware of multiple kinds of beings are aware of Earth, and and have been with us since the beginning and have changed their involvement. Some have been even more involved back during the writing of the Bible and the Torah. I
Mm,
think they were even more involved than they are now. And now they're a little more hands off. Even though after 2012, I think we crossed a threshold where they've always been communicating with us to varying degrees, I believe.
so, I mean, do you think that they're, I don't know how to say this, like kind of involved with like government, or
No,
do you think,
I I
do,
don't believe so.
or I should say, do you think that our government is in contact with them?
Oh, okay. Yes, I think they 70 years ago, I think it was Lyndon B. Johnson had a meeting with, I think it was some gray, what we call gray aliens, which means they're
Hmm.
from Zeta Reticuli. A lot of people think the gray aliens come from Zeta Reticuli. So there's some details there, but I believe our government now, they know about the UAPs, but I don't believe they're in contact with them
Hmm.
yet, but I know that it's on the radar
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as like, they want to know if they're out there because they want to know, are they benevolent or malevolent. I'm here to tell everyone in the government they're totally benevolent. But yes, I think that they're interested, but I don't think they have as much involvement as they used to back in, like 70 years ago.
Hmm.
That's from what I'm just my short answer. That's a short answer.
I already have so many more questions. So, so I mean, you seem to think like we actually know where they come from. Like you mentioned a word, Zeta Reticuli, something
So
like
that's,
that.
yeah, so some people some people believe those small gray, somewhat humanoid, they kind of have the bigger eyes and they're
Right. That's like what we
um
think of as like the standard alien-looking creature
yeah, the
with the
cool
big
head.
head. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. So some people think those beings are we call them the grays and they come from Zeta Reticuli, but then like the Pleiadians, they're from the Pleiades, and so varying degrees in like why they visit, when they visit, and do they just keep tabs on us without necessarily needing to visit. So the Pleiadians are a little more like a cousin of humans, so they would look
Okay.
more humanoid, whereas the Zeta Reticuli obviously are what we would call like alien. So as far as who's coming and who's involved, multiple different species for multiple different reasons at multiple different times throughout history.
So, and I've heard this theory before that like humans are made up of different DNA. So, do you think they kind of created us? And are we just
I
like an
mhm.
experiment that like they're watching us in like a little, experiment petri dish to see what's going on?
So actually that's not too far, like that's kind of a joke, but it's kind of real. We're not like the
Hmm.
Truman Show, but basically what a lot of people think and what I've come to kind of understand. And I can list some authors and some people that like are saying this stuff that I'm where I'm getting it from. I didn't just make this up, but
Yeah.
basically the people that like seeded us, we call them the Anunnaki, and they're from a planet system called Cygnus, which
Hmm.
Cygnus Cygnus in the sky during certain times of year like lines up with like I think it's Sirius, and like the Pyramid of Giza, the point like goes over Cygnus and Sirius. There's some sort of connection with the pyramids
Hmm.
with the star constellation known as Cygnus. And that's where the Anunnaki are from. So the Anunnaki, they're the ones I believe that kind of created us, DNA lab sort of situation. So not the Pleiadians and not the Zeta, but I think at this time the Anunnaki have kind of, they're not really around so much anymore. Now we kind of have like connections, I would say more relevant connections to the Pleiadians, the Sirius beings, the Arcturians, and the Zetas. I think the Anunnaki, they're kind of in the background now, but they're how it started.
Huh.
And there is a reason why people say they did this whole thing.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, what? It seems like a really elaborate experiment, you know?
So so actually what people say about this is originally the Anunnaki people from Cygnus came to Earth to mine for gold. So it was a work mission.
Okay.
Gold was needed for their atmosphere.
I've heard
Gold,
this actually, yeah.
yeah, gold is needed for like instead of spraying chemtrails, we should be spraying gold. Like gold is a mineral, right? So it like anyway, so they needed gold for their planet
To
and they
protect it from the sun's rays or something like that.
I'm not sure why they needed it.
Hmm.
I just know we could use it in that way. We
And we
could
have,
spray it.
yeah, we have an abundance of it here.
We do, and it grows with quartz. And so they came down, started mining it, and then they did something that was by their own laws illegal. Like they broke the rules and they genetically crossbred the species that was on Earth, who we call Sasquatch and Yeti.
Oh,
Um, so that natural hominoid, I think it's a hominoid, it's a bipedal ape, um, that was native to Earth. So they used a little bit of that DNA with their own DNA and created a worker species. And they were master geneticists, the Anunnaki. So they were like, let's just create this worker species to help us mine for gold. They got in trouble for that. They were not
hmm.
supposed to do that.
Got in trouble from who?
From their like they were recalled back to their planet.
Okay.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to do that. That's why they did give us some help like during the biblical recordings. There's some a lot of biblical recordings that involve extraterrestrials and gods in the sky talking to people. So some people think the Bible's recorded extraterrestrial contact because the Anunnaki felt bad. Like we should help these people. We should give them corn and teach them how to grow stuff. And like we just kind of put them here. Like we have to help them. So some sort of ethics.
Hmm.
Um,
And
and
were we humans at that point?
I believe so. Yeah, because
Okay.
they mixed us with the Sasquatch, and then we became basically what we know as humans. So what's cool about that is we have a lot of untapped potential and a lot of powers. Like everybody's psychic, especially once you hone it. Like that's not like only for certain people. That's like
Hmm.
in our capabilities. We just haven't tapped. We're becoming more fully like human and what it even means to be human, which actually turns out to be ET or Anunnaki DNA, which is really cool. And we have a
Hmm.
lot of untapped skills that we're just now learning about. And um, I think that it's cool to be involved with aliens, but also like we're earth we're humans, like it's about having a human experience, so it's kind of a funny trinity: humans, ets, and then spirit realm. We're just all of the above.
Do you think that there is a plan to kind of suppress that gift that we have? If that makes sense, like, you know, I mean, we could talk about like fluoridating the water and things like that. You know, I mean, do you think there's an actual plan to kind of keep us in the dark on all this stuff?
Well, actually, there's a the plan started back when the Anunnaki messed with our DNA, or should I say created us using DNA.
Okay.
They kind of put in like a subjugative, submissive worker it's not a gene, but like we were supposed to be workers. So like us worshiping things like a god or like ETs, that was kind of like what we originally 100,000, 300,000 years ago, that's kind of what we were made to do, but then we kind of broke out of that. And
Hmm.
so you asked if there's a plan to kind of suppress. I would say not not really with the fluoridated water. They're just dumb. I think
Yeah.
that's just stupidity. I don't think that's like a malevolent plan. Um, Same with the chemtrails. I think they just don't know what they're doing. They're just trying stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's a malevolent
So,
intention.
right. So you're just saying it's more in our nature to find things to worship, whether it's celebrities or religion or whatever.
We're kind of getting over that, but like physiologically, we're kind of I don't know. We something about the Anunnaki and us being like almost a slave. I will say like a slave. We kind of have that theme. That's one of our themes is like who's going to be telling us what to do. Like that's a theme of humanity that we're collectively purging and we're all recognizing our sovereignty and we're all recognizing when we work together and share, we don't even need to do this like subjugative, submissive, dominant dance anymore.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Because
I
it's
gotta be.
all connected.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. This is not at all where I thought this conversation was going to go. It's really interesting. And I don't know personally, like, I don't know what I believe on this stuff. But I really like the thought experiment of it. Of
And
just like,
that's why I brought it back to earth and I was like
yeah,
aliens are cool like but we are earthlings so it's like it teaches it like thinking about the fact that aliens might be real or are real that
mhm,
only helps us to enjoy our life more and to enjoy the human experience more because it doesn't change one day. I'm still going to like wake up, put my pants on, as they say, like one leg at a time. Like it's up to us how we use the information to like change and better ourselves because we're having such an individual experience on Earth. And like normally we're all one. Like normally we're
yeah,
all connected. So that this is a very like unique experience being Earthlings. So adding ETs to the mix, adding like what happens after we die, spirit questions, it's all connected.
mm. Well, let me ask you then. I've heard of these beings being like multi-dimensional, and when I hear that word, I mean, I think the fourth dimension we think or know is time. So could they be time traveling beings? Is that something you've heard of?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I believe we're all multidimensional time traveling beings. Like if you've had a deja vu, if you've had a dream, time appears very linear, but mechanically it's more circular and all happening at the same time. But when we're on Earth, we play the linear game.
Hmm.
So it's like a think of it like I didn't make this example up. I'm repeating an example here from a teacher, but I think of it like a film strip. Each individual moment is captured in a single picture, but then once you play it really fast together, it appears to be moving and it comes across as a movie. So it
Hmm.
reminds me of those flip books from the 90s as well. You have those static pictures, and then once you flip it, it appears to be moving. So that's kind of like time. It appears linear. Like, hey, remember when we talked about setting up this interview? Now it's happening.
Hmm.
So it appears to be linear, but mechanically, I think it's more circular and more happening at the same time, and therefore the multidimensional being thing, absolutely. Like we're realizing we're multidimensional. So I would say yes, for sure. Multidimensional beings is a great description, and we're
Oh.
maybe even we're multidimensional beings.
Well, I asked that question because I recently went down a rabbit hole of thinking about these aliens, these multidimensional beings, as maybe I've heard this as a theory that maybe they're actually us from the future. coming back and visiting and keeping tabs and whatever. So then I don't know, would that mean that the UAPs are actually time machines, that they're coming back from the future and checking in on us?
Right. So it's all, if everything's happening now, then yeah, they are from the future checking back on us, but it's all just now, now, now. I think
Hmm.
other incarnations that you've had, I've had, we've all had are on those places. So yeah, in a way it is like other versions of us checking in on us because there's a parallel, what I would call like a future self, because if there's past lives, there's future lives. So we know it's all happening now, but there's quote unquote a future life or a parallel life of me, yeah, like on the Pleiades having her life or his life, just like how there's a maybe a version of me in the Middle Ages. But it's technically it's not past and it's not future. Now we're realizing just everything's one moment viewed from different perspectives. So yeah, I do actually believe that it's could be viewed as versions of us from the future coming back. And for and the reasons, again, if the Anunnaki came here to mine for gold, then maybe the future versions of ourselves have reasons for coming back now and interacting with us. And so it's very much like dynamic and um all happening now.
Yeah, that's crazy. The other thing that I thought of was that if these were time traveling beings, and if it was actually like a time machine, that maybe our government had a time machine, let's say, they would want to keep that very, very secret. And that to me makes kind of the rest of the conspiracy theories make a little bit more sense because why would it would make sense that you don't want people to go back and mess with our timeline where if
I would say the US government is not advanced enough to have or to under they don't understand how to parallel travel through timelines yet, and they don't
mm,
understand, they don't have a time traveling machine yet. I would
yeah,
bet that they don't, but the ETs do.
right,
So
right, right.
for as far as time travel and as far as the um film strip example and the flip book example, we're traveling through billions of parallel realities every second, but they're so similar. We it creates the illusion of continuity, but that is an illusion.
So it's kind of like all these parallel universes just sort of stacked on top of each other. Is that kind of what you're referring to? And
Yeah, and if they're
you're kind
infinite, then there can be like a billion parallel realities where we're having this conversation, and there are, and we're flipping through billion parallel realities per second. Time. That's why time travel exists, because it's so subtle.
mm,
So anyway, that's proving that would be kind of challenging, but I think now they are in like physics, particle physics, they're kind of talking about parallel realities more and more. I've actually think that's ramping up in like the collective consciousness. But that relates to these interdimensional beings because it makes it less far-fetched.
mm.
Like it's like if we're flipping through parallel realities, then they are, and they know how to time travel, and we don't yet. And like that's how we know they're benevolent and nice. One reason why we know, there's multiple, but one reason why we know is because they have been coming here and they know how to come here, and like they've never done anything to harm us, and we don't know how to get to them.
Well, the other thing though is if they know everything and they know like there are horrible things that have happened in human history that could have been prevented that they maybe chose not to for whatever reason.
I think at
So,
some point after they had a lot of interaction with us in the biblical times, maybe 12,000 years ago or something, after they had a lot of contact with us, I think there was truly like a real thing like in Star Trek where it's like you can't interfere with them. Now they're at a point in their history where they need to do it themselves. So I
mm,
think that's kind of where we've been, and now we're actually getting our shit together and post 2012, and I'm really grateful for that. What else did you ask? You had a really interesting question. You asked another part of that question.
Uh, shoot. I'm sorry, what did I ask? Well, so I guess where I was going with that was, if they have the ability to come back and guide us in the right direction, I mean, for one, why didn't they when they could have, say, the Holocaust or any other horrible, I mean, what's going
Because
on
at
in
that time, it was a prime directive, meaning like you can't interfere with them. At the
Right,
Holocaust,
right.
that was already too late.
Right, right. But my other thinking is that maybe if we're a part of the same timeline, maybe, it's like Back to the Future. Like if they come back and they change too much, then they go back to the future, shit's all different, you know?
So that's not really how with real time travel, you just go to a different parallel reality. You don't change you don't change any world you're on. You just shift
Mm,
the world you're on. So nothing would change.
mm,
I know I just watched a movie that was like, "Oh, we got to go back, but it changes." So it was a really good movie, but it's like that's the whole crux of it. That's why it's like it doesn't make sense because if you were never born, then how do you change it? But it's like you just go to a reality where like that's happening. And I know that that sounds easy peasy, but it's all about frequency and really meditating and taking in, drinking in the fact that if we are changing a trillion times per second, that's we're not going to feel it, but we're going to feel ourselves change day to day. I go up and down, so we kind of are going to, you could, so yeah, so we are kind of going to different worlds, even just small minor changes, but it doesn't seem like we're changing because there's an illusion of continuity. Really, we've already changed realities trillions of times. So just thus far.
that's interesting. I mean, and I don't know if this is kind of what you're talking about, but if you think back, 4 years or 7 years or whatever, I feel like a completely different person than I was in that time period of my life, you know?
Oh my gosh. And people say that all the time, like, I'm a totally different person. Like,
Yeah,
I feel the same way too. I've just turned 35. So I'm like, the person I was at 20 like is unrecognizable, thankfully. And I have a
sure.
lot more growing and changing to go, but it's like you're right. It's like it doesn't even feel like the same. And our memories, like I can remember some stuff before the age of 7, but like not really. But then again, there's a paradox, right? Because trauma, we have certain like physiological responses to things that have happened, and so like
Right.
even though we're different every moment, we continue to bring along the same story because we're living out a life of like appearing with continuity. So like we kind of tell ourselves a story like, oh, I got over this, so I can tell myself about my childhood, even though it's like a totally millions of trillions of realities ago. It's like it can still have bearing in the moment, and that's why people say like everything's in the moment because I'm choosing to bring that up in the moment, and I can use it in a positive way. I can be like, remember that time I defeated my enemies and was victorious. Or I could
Yeah.
use something in a challenging way and be like, oh, this is so challenging, but like, can I keep going? Like, but we bring it into the moment. But yeah, trauma and body, like nervous system, I mean, it's all in the moment, paradoxically. So
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
there's no time, but then the moment is the time. When I say no
Hmm.
time, I mean non-linear time, and that's why everyone just says like the moment is where everything's happening. So that kind of convoluted answer.
No, I think I understand though that there's just to simplify it, there's all of these changes happening, and where you are now is like there's always the now, and that now keeps shifting
Exactly.
into a new reality.
Exactly. And like even coming to Sedona, I'm like, okay, I'm this version of me in Sedona. So it's a paradox though, right? Because like
Hmm.
it's always, we can choose who we want to be in each moment.
Hmm.
Um so it's the paradox of like wherever you go, there you are, but at the same time you can choose who you are and you don't need a reason. You can just make up a reason. Oh, it's because I'm in Sedona, I'm a new version, or because I want to be. I'm a new version. And really, wherever you are, there you go. So I could be in Sedona or I could be in Hawaii, and it's like the same me, but it's only what I choose, who I choose to be. And that's another paradox I want to bring up because I think you'll find it interesting.
Mm.
We only have control over ourselves and nothing else. So it's a paradox. We have total control over ourselves, but no control over anything else.
It's kind of freeing in a way when you think about it.
It is. It is because all you can do is what you can do, and that you have 100% control over, 0% control over anything besides yourself. And that's freeing and at the same time, like a lot of responsibility. You're like, oh, I have to have my own back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the aliens have my back, but they can't do it for me, right? They
Mm.
can tell me, yo, Alexa, climb up these mountains and you're gonna like feel good and get stronger, but they're not gonna pick up my feet and move them for me.
Mm-hmm.
But they could tell me like through like excitement or intuition or just I could tell myself, hey, go on a hike. It's like the aliens, they could be with me, they could be above me in a spaceship kind of cheering me on, but it's like it's me that has to take the steps.
Do you think that there will ever be a time, or if the time is coming soon, that there will be this like global shift in perspective where like we all, I don't want to say evolve, but like we all are now aware that these beings are real and we're connected to them and all that?
I do. I mean, speaking of 2024, 2025, which really makes me think of 2025.
Mm.
Not to jump ahead and miss Year of the Dragon, but 2025, I mean, in another 25 years it'll be 2050 and everything will look totally new, I believe. Still there might be some conflicts here and there but it'll look better and new compared to 2025. 2050 will look a lot different than 2025. And I do believe in like 50 to 100 years, we're going to have like certain realities, I'll just say certain versions of Earth will have like a deconstruction. Like, let's get rid of these fucking like freeways and fucking cement and just plant trees. Like, I do believe that's coming in 50 to 100 years.
I hope so. We're gonna need to.
Well, as long as we stay in that frequency of like being excited about that, we're
Mm.
magnetizing and vibrating and attracting it like a magnet, like attracting like energy. Not like, oh, I'm so pissed that's not happening. That's not the way to attract it. That's the way to repel from it. A way to attract it is to be like, oh, that would be so amazing and everyone would have their needs met and like feel it really like nourishing instead of like I'm angry it's not happening now, which is actually like not helping the energy to enhance the energy of positivity.
Mm. Okay. Um, well, so I guess going back to my question, do you think there will be a point when these aliens, as you call them, reveal themselves to us publicly and, let the whole world know? Because they're pretty secret right now, so.
Right now it's pretty secret. It's just some channeling and some dreams. People are remembering dreams where they interact with them, and then some people channel them. But yeah, it's pretty secret in the shadows right now. But there are sightings, and there have been a lot of military sightings. And
Mm.
I think very probable reality, um, and of course there's trillions, infinite realities, but a probable reality that we watching this will see probably will be a mass sighting in like the Phoenix lights, like hundreds of lights in the sky and like a lot of people seeing it and taking videos and stuff. I think that is probably going to be the first mass sighting, and it will, I believe it will happen somewhat soon, like within the next 5 years.
Cool.
But the whole like deconstruction, taking out the cement, I don't think that'll happen until like maybe another like around 2050 to 2100. I think that's more like when that deconstruction, planting trees thing I was talking about. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully it'll be sooner. But
Hmm.
as far as a mass sighting and a wake up, I think that's going to happen within the next 5 years. And I believe it's, have you heard of the Phoenix Lights?
No, I don't think so.
So the Phoenix Lights is the name of a big famous sighting from the 90s. I believe it was in 95
Oh,
or
okay.
96 or 7. So people had camcorders. People had camcorders, and thousands of people saw these lights because there wasn't just one light, there was probably thousands of lights. And you can look it up now online, Phoenix Lights. So I think there's going to be some sort of another sighting like that, and more people are going to hear about it because of the internet. I again hope probably within 5 years, even that part of the phase could happen.
You know, it's weird though because I mean there've been things that have been caught on footage, right? But like, and we have these iPhones we've had for years and years now. I have yet to see any good looking footage, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. That the fact that we haven't seen reliable footage of these things, that we just as a society we just don't believe them.
But we have a lot of reliable footage when it comes to military. The
Right.
military, they are the ones that have documented this phenomenon, which is so funny because, like you
Uh,
said, they're kind of like being secretive, but then they're the ones that have kept the best files and historical accurate records to the second, to the nautical mile, to the wind knot level. Like
mm,
they have the real good evidence. Also, I wanted to bring up probably a lot of people would be familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer has a UFO sighting protocol and group. The group is called CE5, and they have posted videos that are extremely compelling. And I would
mm.
absolutely urge you to take a look and tell me if you find those compelling. And
Okay.
then that's just the CE5 is like compelling, but if you want like if so check out those, but check out the Phoenix Lights, and then also check out all of the trillions of documents that the military has declassified. About 20 years ago, 25 years ago, this stuff was even more secretive. So that's why I say think of 2050, because back in the year 2000, 25 years ago, this stuff was more secretive, and it's still secretive, but it's way less secretive than it is today. So think of another
Mm.
25 years.
Yeah, well, what's interesting now is like Congress is actually like looking at it, and you got David Grush like publicly talking about it, and so yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of why I'm wondering if there's some sort of a disclosure that's about to happen.
I think it is slowly happening, but it won't be as public as landing on the White House lawn. I think they're going to start with more of a grand sky sighting. Again, reference back to the Phoenix lights to get a feel for like how many lights in the sky, like hundreds or even 1,000.
Mm,
And then as far as like the government officially like saying it, it's kind of funny because it's like the military has already many people from the military have already said it, but as far as like how are we using that, like just knowing that they're real is also the first step, but the second step is like communicating with them. So that's like I guess part 2 of this.
mm. Well, there's another thing I wanted to ask you about. I've heard another theory that there's going to be a staged uh, invasion or something like that. That's not real. That governments are planning in order to bring about a change. Some people call it the New World Order or like a one world government. This is like deep conspiracy stuff, but I'm just wondering if you've heard of anything like that or if you think there's any truth
Yeah,
there.
I don't think there's any truth to that. I've heard, yeah, of the like the staged like invasion, but like
Yeah,
I don't believe that's gonna happen. If it happens, come to me and interview me, you know,
yeah,
after it happens, and then we'll like talk about it. But it's like I just don't think I think logistically that would just be like why? Or
right,
not
right.
why, because I know why, but like logistically a waste of time. But like why I see what you're saying is to the why of just the control, but like I'm not into like that theory. I'm into like humans and aliens having a connection and a relationship, but
Yeah,
I don't buy into the government hiding them from us.
cool. No, that's really nice to hear. Actually, it's reassuring because I mean, I think that's something we're all kind of afraid of, right? That there's like these men in black kind of guys going around keeping shit under
I
wraps.
Again, that's built into like our survival mechanism. So when I first
Hmm.
heard that, I totally opened my mind up to like that's a viable option. Like what if that's happening? Like but then after doing like 10, 15 years of like more research or just more like exposure to like different information and my personal experience, just I have not I have not found that like relevant or helpful. But what is relevant is like cultivating a relationship with ETs, doing more research, or even just sky gazing and then maybe like some dream work. So to me, that's more exciting than like, yeah, if they do stage a fake thing, call me, let me know,
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. But I
yeah,
think there's a very high probability that the ETs are going to come to the people and not go through the government. And that I think is where the
yeah,
original fear of the conspiracy theory is. Can something block us with our connection to ETs or to God? Do we need a priest to get to God? No. So
right,
we're realizing that now. So we're worried. We're like, is the government what if the government's keeping it from us? And it's like, yeah, they were keeping it from us that they're real, but they don't really have a
yeah.
relationship with them. We can have a relationship with them ourselves and just not even worry about
Well, and you
them.
bring up a good point because why would these beings respect our government anyway? It's like a man-made, like you know,
They don't respect the government. Like
no,
they know that like the people in the heart and like the the people, we've undergone such a huge transformation on earth. Like we went from like mining for gold to like we're ironing out all these kinks we have of like subjugation, control, scarcity, abundance, cooperation, fighting. Like that's we're all like souls trying to like iron that out in the microcosm and the macrocosm. And it's like I think the ETs, now that we've been past 2012, I think now even past 2020, I believe the quarantine is over in terms of can they contact us? And again, I urge you to check out videos of the CE5 meditations. People have captured these on video, but I believe now they can visit us, and
hmm,
they don't need to go, they don't care about going through the government. They're going to show up and you're going to see it in the sky and your eyes are going to see it, and there's no intermediary needed.
hmm. Well, that being said, I should ask you, have you had any personal experiences that led you down this path?
Yeah, I did.
And I don't
When
know
I,
if you're comfortable sharing, of course.
yeah, yeah. I've seen a couple I would say two experiences that stood out. I
Hmm.
kind of live in like a cold place, so I don't spend as much time stargazing as I want to. If I
Hmm.
had more time put in, I think I would even see more things. But a couple times I've seen a light that I thought was a star looking up at the sky, and then it started zigzagging, zip, 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 and then it flew off. And that was years ago. That was a long time ago. So a couple instances have confirmed, but all of this information as well, yeah. So has been confirmed with personal sightings, personal experiences and
mm,
finding, even just Googling info online. Um, and I was going to say, in high school, I didn't believe in this stuff. I kind of believed in like spiritual stuff, and I was curious about like, I guess, astrology, which I know is like another conspiracy kind of. But
sure.
my dad was really into ETs and UFOs, but like the military stuff, he would tell me like the military has so much information. At that time, it wasn't really disclosed. And I was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, I didn't really believe him right off the bat until I had my own experiences and a couple sightings and then a couple just, and then I guess I just got started on that. That was confirmed to me. So, yeah, the sighting at the, if anyone's ever been to the Missouri Lounge in Berkeley, I was sitting out back and then I saw, just gazing up, saw what was a star, and then it just went zip, 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 flew away. And then another road trip time, I saw like just some like strange lights moving and yeah, a lot, and that's a couple experiences I've had.
It's interesting because I've never shared this, but publicly, but I had a similar experience, and I know I've heard a lot of stories like that. But I saw like a little star that kind of didn't make any sense. The color and the size of it was kind of weird, and then it just sort of took off in like a long streak in the sky. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, but when you think about like physics, like what the hell was that? That doesn't make any sense. So,
Exactly.
not saying it's aliens, not saying it wasn't aliens. I don't know what the hell it was.
Right. So that's the other, right. Exactly. It could have just been like some sort of a rock thing. And then, but it could have been aliens, and it could have been aliens that are aware of us and have
Mm,
been aware of us. Like you said, like, wow, like that's such a concept. Like we're thinking of them. We're like, oh, we hope you're out there. What, but it's like, wow, what if they really are out there, and what if they're really aware of us? And it's like kind of like a dream come true in a way. Because
mm,
at that time at the Missouri Lounge, when I saw that zip, 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 I didn't believe, like, I didn't know like those aliens were like aware of me or like even Earth.
right.
I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking, oh, those are aliens and they're really aware of Earth. And like now I'm like more on that train. But that was an experience that definitely left me wondering, like, yeah, what was that? And that was a long time ago. So I think those little experiences add up. But then once you start kind of researching different channelers and different information, you know, yeah, everyone has their own journey to like figure out like what information is relevant to them and like what information isn't.
Yeah.
And to some people they can live a totally spiritual and fulfilled life and not need to like ever have a confirmation about ETs, or even ETs don't need to be involved in their life. But for me, it's just very relevant to
Mm,
this lifetime. But like to some people, like it doesn't need to be, and then the whole like government thing, I think it's really interesting that collectively we're letting go of the fear of like, oh no, what if we need to worship something? What if we need, or to even worry that like the government's going to get in the way of me having a relationship with aliens? It's like, again, we're purging this theme of like an
mm.
intermediary, a middleman. Um, we are gods, and we're realizing that now.
Well, and it's really interesting to me to hear this perspective that like it doesn't. I think when we're talking about aliens, it can sound really scary, and it can sound really, especially when we go down the conspiracy rabbit hole of what the government's doing or not doing. But it sounds like for you, this is a very positive thing in your life that you're using to create positive change, and it's kind of like an empowering thing. So that's really cool to hear.
Absolutely. And it's funny because it's all kind of wrapped like you said, if you bring up aliens, that could be wrapped up with like multiple different covers. It could be wrapped up with like the conspiracy and the fear, or it could be wrapped up with like, wow, like if they really are, have been coming this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
like we can love ourselves more. We there's a purpose to why we're here, and so that there could be a connection So yeah, I view it as very, very positive, but there was a time when it seemed scary to me or it seemed irrelevant. I'm like, bro, I gotta pay my motherfucking shit. I don't give a fuck who's hovering above me.
Yeah,
Like, people joke also about like hybrid kids, and there's like a whole world of that, but I joke like it's just when you're down here and you're like buying diapers and paying rent and working, it's like it doesn't. What's the relevance? Like, what's the
right.
relevance? Relevance to me is just excitement. Like, I'm gonna be the best person I can because, like, wow, like my dreams are coming true. The aliens are real. But that's just me because I'm kind
Yeah.
of out there.
Well, hey, going back to thinking about scary things, I gotta ask you this one last question. There's been all these reports of alien abductions. That's pretty scary. Do you think there's any truth to those, or why would they be doing that in the first place?
Such a good question. Okay, so when I joked about the hybrid kids just not 3 seconds ago, that
Yeah.
is like part of that community of like alien abductions and then like taking the DNA. And I'm a proud alien abductee. Haven't fully
Oh.
remembered, I haven't fully remembered everything, but like I believe that I have been taken and maybe some sample of DNA was used. So yeah, the term abduction is scary, but in reality, it's more of a pre-life agreement. Like, hey,
Huh.
you can take me and use some of my DNA, or use whatever they're using. I don't
So
know.
we all signed
Maybe
up for that already.
not all of us,
Okay.
not all of us, only some of us. And so it's not scary, like they never bring us back and they wipe our memories. Like I don't even remember it, but
Hmm.
I there's some other confirmations that kind of came to me which makes me think I am. And again, I'll say like 99% I think I am, but I know there's always a chance that I'm wrong and no one has to believe me. Like I'm not
Huh.
asking anyone to like believe me. It doesn't matter to me. Um but yeah, so the term of abduction sounds like they take you, never bring you back. But from my experience, it's more like, oh, hey, I borrow you for whatever means? Signed up for this. I signed up for this, and then I forgot when you are born. You forgot what you signed up for, so I forgot that I
Hmm.
was signed up for this, and they wipe your memory, so I don't even remember it. But in dreams, I've had a couple dreams of being abducted or taken up on. Use the term taken up on a spaceship. I was with my good friend Sam Hemingway. We used to work on a dairy farm together, and I had a dream one day that we were at the farm and we saw light above us, and then I kind of went into third person and watched me and him go up into the light. So that was
Huh.
a dream that I had remembered. So the more you slowly start to remember your dreams, that's a good indicator of, oh, was I abducted? It's like the more you kind of ask the question, because you might have been and might not even know it because they do wipe your memory. But if you are an abductee, it was because it's something that was exciting for you to kind of sign up for pre-life. And yes, there is free will. Um, but I think we sign up for like a certain lifetime. Like I decided to be Alexa in this lifetime and be born to certain parents. But how I choose to be Alexa is all up to me. Again, 100% control over myself. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that so I agreed pre-life to be part of the alien agenda, if you will, or abductions, if you will, or participation, if you will. So slowly now I'm remembering that, but there's still a lot that like I don't remember, but I believe I'm part of it.
Wow.
So I'm glad
Yeah.
you asked. I'm glad you
Well, yeah.
asked.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, I think there's stories that sound really possible that I've heard, and then there's other stories where it's just when you hear about it, you're like, well, that sounds like sleep paralysis or something, and it always happens during these waking hours where you're like half awake or half asleep, where like weird shit happens. So, so I don't know, but I think it's really cool that you had that experience.
Thank you. And I'm glad I got to share it with everyone. And also, I just want to say, like you said, secondhand sources are secondhand. And if you are a journalist, firsthand. So, like, I would say to everyone,
Hmm.
Go to sleep and write some intentions. I want to remember my dreams. I want to remember my dreams, and see what you get, because like you just said, secondhand sources, you don't know if they were sleep paralysis or if they were sleepwalking. Some people will take fucking Ambien and do crazy shit,
That's
you
true.
know? So it's like, but for yourself, if you're interested in this subject and this is piquing an interest, I would say experiment around for yourself.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap this up, you had mentioned maybe some books or something. Is there anything that you'd want to let people know about in case they want to dive into this a little deeper?
Absolutely. So couple teachers I really like. People who are interested in the pyramid stuff in Egypt, and how the pyramids line up with the stars and a lot of ancient history. That's really interesting to probably someone like you, who like logic, fact based, history. Let's look at the rocks and see how old they are. Because if
Hmm.
you're telling me this is a 2,000-year-old rock, but really we know about geology and it's 12,000 years, like some of our history, like we don't fully know our history yet as humans. We're learning it. So some really cool history stuff is Billy Carson. He's on YouTube. He does have books. His Billy Carson. His website is Forbidden Knowledge with a four. I think it's Forbidden Knowledge .com. Billy Carson, and then the big teacher that I've resonated with, his name is Daryl Anka, Anka, Anka. Channels an extraterrestrial being that he calls Bashar. So Daryl Anka channels
Hmm.
Bashar. He's been a big teacher, so I would look that up if you're into the ET stuff. Um, anything Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer is an incredibly reliable source. He's a doctor, he's a meditator, he's an experiencer. He started the CE5 protocol, which helps humans communicate with aliens without an intermediary. Check out some of his info, and his people post videos of sightings they've seen at the CE5 events. So Dr. Stephen Greer, Billy Carson, Daryl Anka. I guess those are the three that I'll start out, leave you guys with.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I always let people know. I don't even know if you're on social media, but would you do you have a place that you'd like people to find you or no?
I'm not really on social media. I'm just like I'll see you guys around Earth, and I'll see you
Yeah,
guys in the dream time. Yeah,
I
I'm kind of
totally respect that. I totally respect that.
yeah, I just knew that like I would get carried away with it, and I'm just kind of a Scorpio hider, if you will.
No, that's awesome. If I wasn't doing this music shit, I probably wouldn't be on there either.
And
It's
maybe
not
when
even
I get
worth it.
into my music shit more, I'll
You're
then
gonna,
create a place.
you're gonna have to come join us. Yeah.
I'll join you guys.
Well, hey, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I
Thank
learned
you
a
so
lot.
much. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for like asking. I'm so glad I could share all my
absolutely.
wild guess you could call them conspiracy theories, but they're positive conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have you back, eventually, and we'll go maybe a little deeper into some of that stuff.
Thank you so
So,
much.
right on. And
Fantastic.
for everyone else, we'll see you guys next time. And thank you so much. Peace.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.